Just about 1 year ago, I realized that I had lost a really positive relationship that I used to have with books. And as someone who considers themselves a writer, I realized it doesn't make a ton of sense to be making time for writing but not reading. So I decided I would do something about it. And with that decision, I determined that in 2021, I would read 12 non-academic books. This isn't a lot by most standards, but I've never been much of a goal setter, so I took some common advice and made my goal very humble and achievable. But I was feeling a little bit enamored with the prospect of self-improvement and actually made 5 other New Year's resolutions as well. And I'm pretty shocked to say that I completed almost all of them. So I'm just going to do a really quick wrap up of each goal and how it went. First up, therapy. Anyone who's tried to get mental health treatment knows that it can be a real pain in the ass, and honestly, it's the last thing you feel like doing when you're already feeling depressed. But I was feeling better during this time, and I was smart and wanted to be proactive about it. I wanted to make progress in feeling better, rather than perhaps slowly receding, especially after graduation. So I was successful in setting up an appointment and went to a therapist throughout all spring semester, and honestly, it went even better than I could have hoped, and I'm feeling pretty good. Alright, my grades for spring semester. According to my video from 6 months ago, this one did not go as planned, and I did not really achieve this goal with a pretty decent GPA, but nothing as great as I intended. But to be fair, I don't really remember spring semester, so at least I graduated. Getting off Instagram was honestly the easiest thing on this list. I just deleted the app, and that was that. The downside to getting off Instagram is that my friends have been sending me memes for the past year, and I've just been ghosting them. The upside to getting off Instagram, though, was that my friends have been sending me memes for the past year, and when I get back on, I'll have a nice meme archive to binge through in 2022. Higher education. This one feels like a failure, but I have to remind myself that it's not. I was rejected from NYU's Tisch program in the spring, and after doing more research, it's true that my writing just wasn't on par with the caliber that they're looking for, and that's honestly okay. All I need to do now is just give myself the time and the space and the resources to improve my writing and then get it on that scale and maybe find a program that better fits what I'm looking for in the future. Finding a cool job. Now this one is pretty vague, but I actually double dipped here. In late January of 2021, I landed a position at this place called First Build. It's an engineering space, micro factory, whatever you want to call it. They do a lot of stuff. I worked with some really interesting people on some really unique projects, and it was a great stepping stone for my path as a video editor, and I'm really glad that I got that experience while at U of L. Then in late September, I landed a full-time position with a tech YouTube channel that I've been watching for a long time called Your Average Consumer. I know that working full-time can be stressful for me, but when I step back and reframe a little bit and look at the position I got at First Build and this new one at Your Average Consumer, I realized that landing these positions is a pretty significant thing for me. And the last one was reading 12 non-academic books, and I brought this one down to the wire because I didn't read pretty much at all during September and October, but I did get there in the end. And for those of you who are curious, here are the books that I read. Educated by Terry Westover, The War on Normal People by Andrew Yang, Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, Blockchain Chicken Farm by Zhao Wei Wang, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, 1984 by George Orwell, Night Flyers by George R.R. Martin, A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, Less by Andrew Sean Greer, The Writer's Practice by John Warner, The Inner Game of Tennis by Timothy Galloway, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. And that's it. Overall, I really enjoyed the books that I read this year. There was a couple that left a little bit of something to be desired, but honestly, they all took me on a journey of some extent and made me think about something that I otherwise would not have. And I think at the end of the day, that's all a book really needs to do for me. And now I just get to say it. I'm proud of myself for making these goals happen. I was able to identify things in my life that I wanted to change and executed to some extent on all of them. I know that setting goals and achieving them can be really tricky, so I have a little bit of advice, and it starts with get started and don't stop. When it comes to getting started, I think one of the best things you can do to get a fire going underneath you is use time constraints. I did this actually unintentionally with the spring semester stuff, but I want to do this stuff throughout the spring semester, which started in January, which meant I have to get started on it in January and then carry through until May. So that was something that I did unintentionally, but it actually helped a lot, and I recommend you do something like that as well. In regards to don't stop, I'm talking about setting reminders and accountability. As for reminders, I use this app called Bear, where it's just a simple note-taking app, so I wrote down each goal that I had in a to-do list style fashion, and then every time I opened up the Notes app, I saw it there because I pinned it to the top. Even better, I created an iOS widget with that, so whenever I swiped over to the middle page of my phone, goals for 2021 was the first thing that I would look at. Now, I was gonna say I didn't use external accountability all that much, but I literally made a YouTube video about my progress on these goals 6 months ago, and what better way to stay committed to something than having something to prove to internet strangers. On the real though, it's good to talk to people about your goals, whether that's someone you know in real life or someone you know on Discord. And just like that, it's December 20th once again. A lot of change has happened in the past year. A lot of good change, take note of that, but a lot of change nonetheless, and it's time to take inventory once again. So I'm gonna step back, do a little bit of thinking, and see what I wanna change and make better for 2022. Alright, we are back. It is January 16th, 2022, and I recorded the first portion of this video about 3 weeks ago now. And really all I've done since then is take a vacation. I was supposed to get 10 days off from work, and then I ended up getting an additional week off, so I just kind of roll with it. I had my New Year's resolutions laid out at the time, but I was on vacation. I wasn't worried about just jumping into them right away. I know that I can pace myself, and those things take time, and just starting an extra week earlier wouldn't do me as much good as just letting myself rest and just completely relaxing. And I use that time period to, like I said, relax, but also to reflect on what I accomplished in 2021, what I want to accomplish in 2022, and even beyond that. So I spent a lot of time thinking about how my goals should reflect that. And I came up with a few good ones. Now, I say a few, but this is actually more goals than last year, and these are pretty large goals. There's no doubt about that. These are things that will take a significant amount of time and investment to do, but I'm confident that if I carefully approach this throughout the year, I will be able to get them done. So for my goals for 2022, the first thing is to read 13 books. I read 12 last year, and as much as I like reading, I read a lot of things in addition to books. I read a lot of screenplays or scripts as well. So I didn't want to oversaturate myself with just committing to reading a ton of books. I don't think it's healthy to just ramp up the number of books you read every year. I think that's a kind of common thing. I was comfortable about the amount of books that I read last year, and I figured I could probably squeeze in one more if I put a little more effort into it. And I really enjoyed all the books that I read last year, so I'm hoping that I'll get 13 more really good books this year. The next thing on my list is to spend at least 2 hours on physical art every week. I guess as time has been going on and I've been reflecting more, I really value physical art, and it's not to say that I don't love digital art. Obviously, I make videos, so I have a very strong connection to digital art, but there's something very grounding to me about drawing or painting or sculpting. And I think I'm relatively good at painting and drawing for someone who doesn't paint or draw all that much. So I'd like to put that skill to use, make some more stuff for the apartment, and really just kind of have the meditative experience that is illustrating on paper or canvas. And this wasn't what I was intending when I made this goal, but I've also been doing some research on film photography. I'm a little bit of a chemistry nerd. I was big into chemistry in college. I almost minored in it. But yeah, the science behind photography really interests me, and I'd like to see what I can do with the medium. I just like the idea of leaving all kind of the editing out of it. So I'm interested to see what kind of photos I can make just by snapping a shot, getting a negative, having it scanned, and that's that. The third goal I have is to exercise at least 4 times a week. And this is something that has been super hard for me since I got a full-time job. But I want to make time today for it. It's really important to me. I'm the kind of person who needs an exercise that really takes it out of them. I think that's why I like things like running and mountain biking, because you finish those and you're gassed, you're completely dead, and it feels good. And so far this year, I've accomplished this by signing up for a membership at a local climbing gym. Now, I've done some rock climbing before, just bouldering in gyms, and then I did some bunch of top rope at a gym over the summer, and I've always really enjoyed it. It's just been cost prohibitive to me previously, but now I actually have the money for it. I thought it'd be a good way to keep my body moving, active, and healthy while doing something that I also enjoy. But if this doesn't work out, I'm really not sure what I'm gonna do. I'll just be back to square one, so fingers crossed. The fourth goal I have is to make a legit short documentary. So I make a lot of videos for work and for YouTube even, but not a lot of these videos allow me to do something that's really narrative or story driven. Obviously here on YouTube, I'm not collaborating with anyone right now, it's just me, so it's pretty difficult to get a real cohesive story going. But that's why I do a lot of writing, because I like that story aspect, but still that doesn't translate to making a short film on my own, that's a whole other endeavor. But as far as the documentary goes, I'd really like to deeply research a subject, get to know some people in the field, get to interview some people, and come up with a story and learn something myself and something that I can share with an audience as well. I don't know quite what it's going to be about yet, but I want to have a subject locked in before March 1st, so that way I have the rest of the year to really get all the information that I need and get to filming and editing. Number 5 is pretty much a layup. This is to listen to 2 new albums every month. Like I said, this is super easy comparatively to the other things on this list, but again, since I've started working, I haven't had as much time I felt dedicated to listening to music, so I'd like to get back to that. And I can do that like while I'm doing physical art, something like that, while I'm on my commute. There's just a lot of time for this kind of thing. I just have to actually be conscious of it and set aside the time for it, and then it'll get done, no problem. But I'm making progress on this already. I already listened to 1 album so far, and that was Manners by Passion Pit. I've listened to a bunch of singles in the past, but never listened to the album full through, and not really surprising, but it was amazing. So I'm happy to continue on that journey of finding new music. Number 6 is to write a fiction script / story. So I think that I'm a pretty strong writer. I mean, I went to college for it essentially, so I feel like I know what I'm doing, but what really holds me back in fiction is just my confidence. I feel like I have a lot of ideas and I'm afraid to expand on them, and when I'm writing I feel just self-conscious about the ideas even before they get out of my head onto paper. So what I'm doing is setting aside time Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on my morning commute to just spend an hour on the train just doing some writing on my phone. And I'm trying really hard to just let the ideas come out, let it flow, and then see what I come up with after a while. My goal is to have at least a rough draft by May, and then from there I can edit and polish and everything. And this goal being stretched out over the span of a year kind of just assumes that it's going to be a garbage fire and I'm going to have a really hard time doing it. But if it does go well, then I'll probably be able to get a bunch of drafts done earlier and really spend the back half of 2022 polishing those drafts and creating a nice portfolio of fiction work. And the last goal, number 7, that I have here is to make top 8 at a Xeno weekly. To most of you, that does not sound like anything you know at all, but what that is for me is to make top 8 at a local Smash Bros. Tournament here in New York City. For those of you who don't know, which I'm assuming is most of you, New York City is a very strong region for Smash Ultimate, and I've been spending a lot of time getting good at that game for the past year, and I'd like to continue that. I think it's a great way for me to get my competitive energy out and have something that I can kind of sink time into to really grind at and see the improvement. Usually about 60 to 100 people go to these things. I usually go 0-2 or 1-2 right now. I need to go about, I think, 5-2 to pick up a top 8, so I definitely have a lot of work that needs to get done by the end of the year, and everyone's just getting better and better at this game, and I'm just trying to keep up and surge beyond them. Somehow, despite all the nerdy ass shit that's on this list, that's actually the nerdiest thing on this list. But I am excited about it, and I really hope that I can get it done by the end of the year. And there you have it. That's all my goals for 2022. This year I'm being better about making them into smaller, more digestible goals, and just doing things like, for example, I write Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the morning commute, and then Tuesday, Thursday in my morning commute, I do some reading. So things like that, these little micro goals that I set out to achieve really help me to get to those goals on time, and then even before the deadline, I think. Now you guys might be a little bit surprised to see that I don't have any goals for YouTube on here, and that's because I'm going to be uploading 2 videos a month for 2022, and that's not a goal, that is a fact. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one real soon.